DreAllDay.com.
You're now tuned into the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day, to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there, even when the success you've expected to achieve has yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative. That is the go-getter energy that moves any one of us, including yourself, to go and make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. And then we put all this together to a series of frameworks, approaches, insights, strategies, and techniques all underneath the umbrella of one unified philosophy that is called Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. And today's topic is humans are highly trainable. Yes, just like dogs. So before we get into this and why we're talking about it, I'll remind you of two things. First of all, my daily motivation and Monday motivation message is guaranteed to have you focused, sharp, and on point to start your day or your week, respectively. All you got to do to receive this message is be part of my texting community. It is free to join. Send a text to the following number, 305-384-6894. And again, a couple people have asked me, we don't have the text running right now, but we are still collecting your information. So when we start sending the message out again, as soon as we do, everybody who's already texted us will have your info. You'll hear from our bot. It'll let you know that the messages are coming. And then from there, you'll be hearing from me. Those messages guaranteed to do what I just told you. Have you focus, sharp, and on point to start your day. So just text me numbers down below in the description. Secondly, Work on Your Game University. This is the place where I'm working with a select group of people. These are top 2% performers. Not everybody's in the top 2%. There are 100 people. There are 2 people in the top 2%. All right, everybody knows what percent means, right? Okay. Looking for ambitious people who are serious about taking your mindset to the next level. And from there, everything else opens. The strategy's open, the system's open, the accountability and implementation happen, and then we get high performance done consistently to produce results at workonyourgameuniversity.com. Again, when you're looking for everybody, looking for the right type of people, if that sounds like you, go to workonyourgameuniversity.com and find out if it is you. That out the way, let's get into the topic here today, which is humans are highly trainable. Now, I was thinking about this as I was doing a sales training for a private organization down here in Miami. And when I was talking to the sales team, because I got brought in by the sales manager, and I'm talking to the sales team, and some of the salespeople were saying, hey, you know, sometimes when I'm dealing with clients, they were basically airing out their grievances with some of their clients. That they work with some clients, and these clients are always very demanding. The clients are calling us at all different times with all these demands and allegedly urgent issues. And now as a salesperson, my day gets thrown off because I got to go do what this client needs or this prospect wants, and it's throwing off my schedule. And then I'm not getting to the other stuff I got to get to. And then my schedule's all thrown off, and I'm not able to do all the stuff I had to do. And it's costing me sales, and I'm not producing the way I want to produce. And I feel like I'm just running around putting out fires all day, every day. And they were, many of them seconded, like one person would say something like that, and all the rest of them would say, yeah, that's happening. And somebody else would say something, everybody else would say, yeah, that's happening. And I responded to them with a form of what I'm going to share here with you all today. And some of the things I'm going to share here today are about helping you understand when you're running a business of any kind. This includes your personal life. Your life is a business, by the way. And if you didn't know that or understand it, let me explain it to you very quickly. A business just means that there's an exchange of resources going on in exchange for another resource, right? You're giving something and getting something. That's a business, right? So I give you some hot dogs, you give me $5. I give you a car, you give me $30,000 or $300 a month for the next 60 months, or whatever the situation is. That's a business. When you were born, did it cost money? Yes, it did. All right. The hospital charged your parents or the midwife or however you got born, there were charges. If you went to a doctor to get delivered or get checkup after you were born, there was a charge. It cost money for you to be born. All right, the diapers cost money, the baby food costs money, the car seat costs money. When you die, it costs money. Does it cost money for a coffin? Yes. Does it cost money for a funeral? Yes. Does it cost money to burn your body up into ashes and put it in an urn? Yes. Everything costs money when you're born. It costs money when you die, and everything in between costs money. The bills cost money. Yes. The food costs money. Yes. The housing costs money. Yes. The clothing costs money. Yes. The food costs money. Everything costs money. All of life is a business. All right, so everybody understands now why you're a business. Even if you're not an entrepreneur, each one of you is a business. Okay, so when you are running a business of any kind, these understandings will help you in keeping things organized and to your liking, because understand that you can't run a business without dealing with other human beings. That's the reason why I'm bringing this up. So this is really about dealing with other people, but it starts with dealing with yourself. In case any of you didn't know, over here in the Work on Your Game world, we always start with the person in the mirror and we bring it back to the person in the mirror. We may go in a lot of different directions, but we always start in the mirror and we end in the mirror, because it's what you do in the way you think that determines how other people are responding to you and dealing with whatever it is you're putting on the table. Okay, so that's the game that we're playing here. So this also applies to anyone who's in a position where you are literally organizing, disciplining, and maneuvering other people in such a way that describes how you want things to work or fits into how you want things to work. So it means those of you who are business owners, bosses, managers, supervisors, teachers, parents, etc. Anything where you're getting other people to kind of cooperate with what you want. Again, the topic today, humans are highly trainable. Point number one, we are used to following rules. Everybody listening to this is used to following rules. Now, some of us follow more rules than others. Some of us follow rules more often than others. Some of us, based on the decisions that we make for our lives and careers, are more subject to rules than others. But we are all used to following rules. Even people who make a point of not following a lot of rules, even someone like myself, we still follow rules. It's not like I don't follow any rules. I don't follow a lot of rules, but I follow a good amount of rules. And I make rules for myself. Even if I'm not following somebody else's rules, I make my own rules. But I still make rules. All right, so this applies to all human beings. Listen to this. Let me show you. As children, our parents gave us rules to follow. Is this true? Yes. Then we went to school, and the teachers gave us rules to follow, right? Then you graduated from school, and what do you do after you graduate from school? You get a job, and guess what? Your bosses gave you rules to follow. And then you work at the job until you're too old to work anymore, then you retire, and then you're dead. So we literally spend our entire lives following rules. This is what people do. Everybody follows rules. So in short, folks, we spend our entire lives following rules that have been told to us and that we're held accountable to. So in any organization that you run, whether it's yours or someone else's, you're dealing with people, right? Are there people working there where you are? Okay, guess what? They've been following rules their whole life too, just like you. So if you give them rules, let me give you a secret. All right, lean in really closely, turn the volume up really loud on your device so you can make sure you hear what I say. I'm gonna whisper it because I don't want too many people to know. All right, they will follow rules if you give it to them. If you give people rules, they will follow them. If you give people rules, they will follow them. Most human beings are highly compliant. Most human beings are actually involuntarily compliant. What I mean is they're not even thinking about the fact that they're complying with a rule when they comply with the rule. Most people just naturally comply with rules because they're so used to doing it, they don't even think about, wait a minute, why am I doing this? Remember when the COVID scamdemic happened a couple of years ago? Yes, I said scamdemic, not pandemic. And we were told, put a mask on when you go outside, or put a mask on when you get in the elevator, or wear a mask because you can save grandma from dying. And most people, not everybody, but most people just followed it. They just did it. They didn't think twice about it. They didn't question it. They didn't say anything. They said, whoever they are, said, put a mask on. And most people just put the mask on. Now, there were some people who went against it. There's some people who were loud about it, and they started to get other people's attention. And slowly people said, well, why am I putting a mask? They started questioning it because they heard other people questioning it. But most people blindly followed it without thinking, questioning, or saying anything. Is this true or not? Of course it's true. Many people went and did other things. They went and got jabs. They went in social distance, stand 6 feet apart from people because we know air particles don't travel any more than 6 feet away from you. It was complete nonsense now that we're thinking about it. We can laugh about it now, or at least some of us can laugh about it. But many people did a whole bunch of complying during that time because we are used to complying. Now, it didn't have anything to do with the virus itself. Actually, no, that's wrong. It did have something to do with the virus because people were afraid. Now, you get people emotional and then ask them to comply, they'll comply even more. Now, people are just in their normal, even keel. They're not, aroused in any way emotionally. They will still comply. But if you get them aroused and emotional, remember that emotions cut off our access to the logical centers of the brain. So you can't access your logic when you're emotional. So you get people nervous or afraid or anxious, or they'll do anything you tell them to do. And that's exactly what happened during the scamdemic. So anyway, most people followed the rules. Did they? Of course they did. When you go to the post office or go to a concert, think about it. Last time you were at the post office, or last time you went to a concert for a popular band or artist, were there a whole bunch of people standing in line and waiting for their turn to get in, or waiting for their turn to get to the window, or the last time you went to the bank, or you went to some restaurant or a store and there was a whole bunch of people in there? What do? You see a whole bunch of people standing in line. What'd you do? Did you just walk up to the front and say, let me pay for my stuff? No, what'd you do? You got in line and you waited just like everybody else. That is a form of compliance. I'm not saying that this is wrong. I'm not saying you did anything wrong. What I'm saying is human beings are wired to comply. So if you put rules in place that tell people what to comply with, usually they will do exactly what you tell them to do. Challenge for many of you, especially those of you who find yourself being thrown around by other people's urgent, quote unquote, urgent needs that are not really urgent, is that you are not setting rules for people. Therefore, they're making their own rules and they're using you instead of you putting them where they need to be. Instead of you organizing them, they're organizing you. That's not supposed to happen. And this is what I told to those salespeople. Like you all don't have rules in place. So since you're going to make rules, your clients are making rules and they're controlling you instead of you controlling them. That's not the way it's supposed to work. And I'm letting that one sink in. When you start noticing this, folks, you'll realize that people follow rules all day, every day through their entire lives. So what should you do about it? What you should do about it is give people rules. People follow rules. You drive? Any of you drive a car? Okay. There are little white lines when you're driving on a road, and there's yellow lines separating each direction. There are white lines separating lanes. What do most people do when they're driving? You stay in your lane. You stay on your side of the line. What is that? That is a form of people following rules. That's how we have society. Again, if everyone just decided, well, I'm going to just drive wherever I want, I don't care what the other cars are doing, well, we would have complete chaos out here. People would be dying in the roads because nobody was respecting the lines. And those lines are not blocking a 2,000-pound car from crossing the line, but people respect the lines because there's a mutual destruction guaranteed if you were to cross that line the wrong way and run your car head on to somebody else. They're going to die and you're going to die. So we're all able to respect the rules. So again, I'm not saying that following rules is a bad thing. Following rules is a good thing. The reason why we have civilized society, because we can trust that other people who we don't even know are going to follow the same rule that we're following, so we can have some type of civil obedience out here in the streets. Okay. Now that doesn't mean you should follow all rules at all times, but because people are so wired to do this, it's so conditioned within us. Then when you throw some bullshit for people to follow, they usually follow it without asking because they're so used to following everything else. All right. And this is where the critical thinking comes in and awareness comes in to notice, okay, I'm used to complying with these things. Why am I complying with this one? Most people never ask that question because their awareness is low. All right. And that's a whole different conversation I'm not going to get so much into here today, but I've talked about awareness in other episodes of this show. Let me just give you one of them if you would like to step into it. It's episode number 2879, How to Raise Your Awareness. Talked about it again in episode 2105, Raising Yourself Aware. Episode 2081, How to Become Aware of Your Own Ignorance. And episode 263, Step Up Your Self-Awareness. So these are not new topics. Point number 2. Today's topic, once again, is humans are highly trainable. Number 2, when there are no rules, we have two choices. You know what the two choices are? When there are no rules. You step into a place and there are no rules made, no standards to follow, nothing to comply with. You know what people do? Only two things can happen. Either A, we make our own rules, or B, we live in a state of chaos. Now, let me tell you something. Most human beings are not equipped to live in a state of chaos. In the world that we've all been raised in, most humans are not equipped to live in a state of chaos. In a state of chaos, that means there are no rules whatsoever, which means it becomes a complete free-for-all, and the winners are going to be the people who are willing to go the furthest in terms of doing whatever the hell they want to do. It's complete barbarism. So if you are not able to physically inflict danger on another person, or at least present yourself as dangerous to keep yourself from being attacked, you don't want to be in a state of, you don't want to live in a state of chaos because you will be victimized. Simple as that. And this is the reason why human beings make rules, so that we can protect the most vulnerable members of our society. Because the people who are willing and able to inflict danger and are able to pose a threat to where no one will try to attack them, they can live in chaos because they'll be all right. They'll be able to defend themselves. But those of you who can't, you don't want chaos. That's because you're going to be the first one on the menu. That's why we have rules. Okay, so I remember hearing a guy named Cesar Millan. He was a famous dog trainer expert guy. I think he's still alive. And he explained how dogs are pack animals, and dogs are used to following a pack leader. And understand that dogs, his explanation was dogs are wired to get into packs. Even when it's just one dog and one human, that's still a pack. Dog and human, that's the pack, the two of them. And when a dog is with a human, somebody has to lead. The dog is expecting there to be a leader in that pack of them and the owner who's holding the leash. And if the human fails to assume the leadership role, then the dog will accept the leadership role. They will take the leadership role, and the dog will lead the human around. So next time you're outside, and those of you who have dogs, you need to check yourself for this. But the next time you're outside, if you don't have a dog and you see someone walking a dog, ask yourself the question, who is leading that pack? Is the dog leading the pack, or is the human leading the pack? And it's actually very obvious to tell just by looking at them. Anybody ever seen a dog walking a human? I have. I have some people who live in my building who they have dogs, and the dogs walk them. I'm looking at them. I'm like, the dog is in control wherever they're going. And then I see other people walking dogs. I'm like, all right, the human's in control. And most humans are not aware of this, and they don't walk their dogs as if they're leading the situation. The dog is leading the situation, and the human just goes wherever the dog wants to go. And it's not about the strength of the dog. It's not about the dog is so strong that the human can't stop them. I see people walking with little, I don't even know what these dogs are, little poodles, and the dog is walking the human. It's not that the human is not strong enough to stop the dog, but the human is not assuming the leadership role. So the dog says, okay, I'm going to lead. You ain't going to lead, I'm going to lead. Dogs need a leader. Humans need a leader as well. Humans do the same thing that dogs do. In this way, we are similar. Next time you're out and you see people walking with a dog, again, it's obvious, you'll tell. And humans, we do the same stuff. If no one steps up and gives us rules, then we either make rules or we operate in a state of chaos. Most humans cannot live in a state of chaos for too long because we will go crazy. So usually what we do in any space, when you put a bunch of humans together and you don't give them rules, they eventually make their own rules. Notice this. Any space you ever been in, when nobody gave you rules, you all came up with your own norms and your own rules, and everyone pretty much followed the rules. That's how you were able to maintain order in the situation. I remember reading in Robert Greene's book that he wrote with 50 Cent called The 50th Law. He talks about this, how when 50 Cent had got arrested on drug dealing charges and he went to a 6-month shock rehab facility. He came back home to Southside Jamaica, Queens, New York, and there was this whole new order to the drug dealing game. Whereas before, there was just a bunch of drug dealers just running around in chaos, basically selling drugs to whoever they could sell drugs to. And it was a very chaotic environment that 50 Cent was used to. When he came back home after the 6 months in the shock rehab facility, he noticed that there was this state of order that had been created where drug dealers had certain corners and they had a certain area, and each dealer had this certain area and nobody encroached on anybody else's area. And it was kind of like this state of diplomacy amongst drug dealers in the street in Queens, Jamaica. Now, 50 Cent, his real name is Curtis, he came home and he didn't have a space because he wasn't around when this order was created. So he wanted to sell some drugs, but anywhere he sold, he was encroaching on some territory that was already established from someone else. So people didn't like the fact that he was coming in trying to use the chaotic mode from back in the day instead of using the diplomatic mode from the new day. He had to come in and kind of throw a wrench into the whole system. Similar to what he did in rap. He allegedly, according to the story that's in the book, this is exactly what he did when he came home from being in that rehab facility so he could make some money selling drugs. And the whole point is people do this in every environment. So don't think that this is only limited to environments where there are no kings and queens and dukes and duchies. No, this applies even in drug dealers in the street who are literally doing illegal things and killing each other. Even they have rules that they put in place. There's honor amongst thieves, as we said, sometimes. So again, most people cannot operate in a state of constant chaos. So this is why human beings are wired to make and follow rules. So this is why you need to give people rules. So how do you want things running your organization? All right. There's a question you get to ask, and there's a question you need to answer. Point number 3. Today's topic, once again, is human beings are highly trainable. Number 3, when you give people rules and you stand on them consistently, I don't mean stand on the people, I mean you stand on the rules. You give people rules, you enforce them, and you remind people of the rules, and you are consistent, people will comply. People are wired. I just told you this. I've been telling you this the whole episode here today. Human beings are wired for compliance. I am wired for compliance. You are wired for compliance. Some people are more strongly wired than others, but we are all wired to comply. So if you have rules and you stand on those rules and you are thorough and consistent in enforcement of your rules, people will respect your rules. Even me, I'm a person who I will openly flout rules many times. But if I see someone has a rule and they are thorough about it and they stand on it and they're consistent, then I respect their rule because I want people to do the same thing with me. As long as I give you a rule, if I'm consistent with my rule, follow my rule. Now, if I only enforce it when I feel like it, then you ain't got to respect it because I'm not respecting it. But if I see you respect it, I respect it. That's the way it works. As long as people believe that you're thorough and that you hold people accountable to and enforce your rules, they will respect it. If people don't want to follow rules in a specific space, they will either go elsewhere where there are rules that they are willing to follow. Again, myself, I'm not a common rule follower, but I will follow rules if I see they're being enforced consistent and everybody's being held accountable the same way. So, for example, the building I live in right now, all right, they have rules posted up at the swimming pool and in the jacuzzi, but mostly at the swimming pool. The issue is that they don't enforce rules. So one of the rules is you're not allowed to bring food or drink into the pool area. So if you're in the pool area, you're not allowed to have food or drink. That's what the rule says is posted up on the wall. But I see people getting in the pool with beers in their hands and holding champagne glasses and eating food and smoking cigarettes, all stuff you're not supposed to do in the pool. And it's literally right there on the wall and it says it. The problem is the rules don't get enforced. Nobody enforces the rules. So when someone's breaking the rules, nobody does anything. And there's also a sign that says you're not allowed to play music out loud at the pool. So I remember one day, it was when I had first moved into this building that I'm recording from. There was somebody at the pool and they had music out. They had speakers. They brought speakers and they're blasting music out of the speakers at the pool. They're like having a little pool party. And this is against the rules, clearly against the rules. And I remember I was sitting on the side. I wasn't in the pool this day. I was sitting on the side of the pool working on my laptop, but I could see what was happening at the pool, and I could see people from management walking out, like there's glass doors there towards the pool. So they could see what was happening. I could see them congregating and talking to each other, and I could see what they were looking at, and I knew they were having a conversation about this person with the music. And they were probably deciding, are we going to enforce this rule or are we not? Because to enforce it, we got to go out there and tell them they can't do it. And it looked like, I didn't hear the conversation, but it looked like they came to the conclusion that they're not going to enforce the rule. And I saw them all turn around and walk back the other direction, and the person with the music just kept playing the music. And at that moment, I realized, okay, the rules here don't matter because nobody's going to enforce them. And I don't follow the rules here. I don't do anything disrespectful or nasty to anybody. I don't violate anybody's rights. But I know I don't have to follow the rules here because nobody enforces them. They're not going to be enforced. Now, in a different building that I lived in about 10 years ago, they did enforce the rules. They said that the pool area is open from 6 a.m. to 12 midnight, and they were strict about it. And if you came out there before 6 a.m., one day I was out there before 6 a.m. I wasn't even getting in the pool. I was just warming up before I went outside to run, but I used that pool deck area as a warm-up space. A security guard saw me on the security cameras. He came up there and said, you can't be out here because it's not 6 o'clock yet. And I told him, I'm not even getting in the pool. I'm just warming up. He said, still, you can't be out here before 6 o'clock. And the only reason I didn't argue with the guy is because I knew they were thorough and they treated everybody the same way. Because other times, I remember I being in the jacuzzi and it was midnight. He came out there and said, 2 security guards came out there. It was always 2 of them together. It never came one at a time. It was always 2 of them. They would come and say, hey, it's midnight. The pool's closed. I said, cool, because I know that they did it to everybody. I remember I was sitting out there once. I used to. This is before the days when I wore suits every day. I would be in my T-shirt and shorts, Miami clothing, and I would sit out near the pool deck and just do work on my computer. And I remember I saw some guys, these 3 bros. They came out to the pool, and I knew exactly where they were going. I knew they were going to get in the jacuzzi, and they had a 6-pack of beer with them. And I knew exactly what they were going to do. They were going to get in the jacuzzi, holding their 6-pack, holding their beers, and just stand there and look at each other. This is what these guys do. And as soon as I saw them walking past me, I said, security's going to be coming up here in like 5 minutes because they're going to see them on the cameras and they'll come in there and tell them they can't do it. And lo and behold, literally like 3 minutes later, 2 security guards walked past me. I knew exactly where they were going. I could hear the conversation. And they were telling them, you can't be in here with those beers. You got to put the beers over on the side or you got to get out the pool. And that's exactly what they enforced. And I respected the rules of that building because I saw that they enforced the rules the same way consistently with everybody every time. So if they said something to me about a rule I was breaking, I said, cool. All right, thank you, Mr. Security Guard. I'll respect that rule because I knew they did it to everybody. Now, if they were picking and choosing the rules, I would have said, fuck you, I'm not following the rule because y'all only pick and choose when you want to enforce it. I'm not listening. But if they do it consistently, then we're good. And that's the same thing that everybody is thinking, even though they couldn't, most people probably couldn't explain it that way, but everybody does it this way. All right, so as a human being, I'm human, you're human. We all prefer order to chaos. Right? Even though I am capable of physically defending myself, I'm capable of physically injuring another person. I don't want to have to do that. I'd rather be able to say, hey, how you doing? And keep walking. I'd rather do it that way. So I'll prefer order to chaos. And I think most people will prefer order to chaos, regardless of their physical capabilities. So whatever rules you want followed, just make sure they're clear, make sure they are articulated, and make sure they are consistently enforced. People will respect those. Now, if you don't do that thing, they're not clear, they're not articulate, and they're not articulated, and they're not enforced, well, nobody's going to listen to you. Why should they? You're not listening to you. Why should they listen to you? As simple as that. Again, what I tell you, we start in the mirror and we end in the mirror. Let's recap today's class, which is humans are highly trainable. Again, I got this from talking to some salespeople who felt like they were being dragged around like rag dolls by their prospects and their clients. And the reason this is happening is not because the clients are crazy, is because they are not setting proper rules and training their clients the right way. And I'm giving you an example of some of the things that I would say to them. I'm telling you because you need to use this the same way. Number one, human beings are used to following rules. We follow rules at home with our parents, then we go to school and follow rules, then we get a job and follow rules. We follow rules basically our entire lives. So since everybody's used to following rules, guess what you should do? Give people rules to follow. Point number two, when there are no rules, we make our own rules or we live in chaos. Human beings make rules for themselves the same way dogs make rules. When nobody leads the dog will lead you. If no one leads humans, humans form their own rules. They make up their own order and they make everybody follow it. And if you come in breaking the order, you better be ready to go against the grain, go against the pushback that you're going to get for going against the grain, or you better fall in line and follow the rules. Most people fall in line and follow rules. And number three, when you give people rules and you enforce them consistently, people will comply consistently. People will respect rules that are applied and enforced consistent. If you don't apply and enforce your rules consistently, people will not respect them. Simple as that. So any rule you want to follow, all you got to do is make sure that it's clear, make sure that it is articulated, and make sure that it is consistently enforced. People will listen and people will follow. That is the way human beings are wired. Don't go against the grain. Don't go against human nature. All that said, text me so you're in my community. Numbers down below in the description. And workonyourgameuniversity.com. You want to work with me directly. Have me as your direct coach. That's the way we make it happen. Get in that link. Workonyourgameuniversity.com for the ambitious top 2% performers who are serious about taking your game to a much higher level than where it is right now, and you're willing to make the necessary changes to do so. That link down below in the description. Work on your game. Dre, all